This planet, once a paradise for human beings and animals alike, has become a nightmare. A swirling vortex of storms, fires, and eruptions that threatens to devour what little life remains. And yet, life does remain. Animals. Certain indefatigable species have proven themselves able to adapt in ways humans could not.
My first impression of Away the Survival series was one of intrigue. There's a certain allure to the first 20 minutes or so of a David Attenborough-style narrator talking you through the lives of a young sugar glider and his family, venturing through a violent storm. But as that initial interest wore away, I became more and more frustrated with the game's unpolished animations, unintuitive controls, repetitive nature, and arduously shallow gameplay, all of which make the game a challenge to get through for all the wrong reasons. If you've ever watched Planet Earth or Blue Planet on BBC, you'll instantly feel a sense of familiarity with Away's tone. The narration over gameplay is an interesting and undoubtedly unique take on the animal simulation subgenre. Each challenge that our protagonist faces is narrated with equal parts drama and information, and for the most part it manages to maintain that tone that will appeal to Sir Attenborough's most loyal fans. It's only towards its climax that the game starts to think of itself less as a nature documentary and more as an Uncharted game, offering set-piece moments involving blazing infernos and high-speed deer chases which, while fun, do offset that balance somewhat. Those moments are also unfortunately hampered by a steady lack of polish. Everything from animations not loading to infuriatingly unintuitive traversal mechanics make for a tedious slog through a surprisingly bland-looking forest environment. The game does enough to keep you engaged through its visuals, but most of the areas tend to blend together. Forest areas are what you'll be seeing for all of what the developer of Breaking Walls says is an 8 to 10 hour experience, but in reality the game's main narrative takes up half of that, if we're being generous. The rest of the game's runtime is occupied by a handful of side activities that range from eating mushrooms to chasing dragonflies, none of which provide much substance at all. You might assume that the gameplay would glide in and be Away's saving grace, but unfortunately the moment-to-moment experience leaves a lot to be desired. Platforming is obviously the main element here, with the playable character being a sprightly young sugar glider, and there is some fun to be had in traversing the expansive forest map. The novelty of being able to navigate through the air makes for some light enjoyment, but after the first few hours the magic is gone, and what you're left with is a clunky platforming experience that feels as shallow and disappointing as every other aspect of the game. Not least of which is the combat. Over the course of the story you'll encounter everything from rats to snakes and large overbearing spiders, but the lack of feedback and the disappointingly simple attack and dodge mechanics are sure to be more successful at giving you the heebie-jeebies than any arachnids. When you aren't contending with poorly executed QuickTime events, combat reverts to button mashing, an unsatisfying affair much like the act of eating mushrooms to top up your health, which also suffers from some unfortunately stiff animations. And as we go through the checklist of game mechanics on display, the next contender to fall short is the linear structure of the game's narrative path itself. On more than one occasion I've found myself becoming lost at the hands of Away's poorly designed levels, which try to have you follow a predetermined path. While that in itself is absolutely serviceable game design, the fact is that the game often does a poor job at communicating where it expects you to go. Once you figure out that there are glowing mushrooms placed on the ground to guide you, the experience will come much easier. But the truth is I didn't realise that's what they were there for until very late into the experience, simply because they're placed so abundantly that they seem to be just another part of the environment. So perhaps the game's exploration mode is the answer. This mode scraps the story element entirely and allows you to roam the world as a floating blue orb, possessing any animal or insect you choose. It's definitely a fun idea and a nice addition, but once again it falls short of adding any real substance to the experience. Sure, the creatures all operate differently, if you can actually find any, but there doesn't appear to be anything to do here beyond messing about. It was also rife with bugs at the time of writing, though Breaking Walls did promise to have that fixed in a day one patch.
Drown as well as a
Oh, okay.
Alright.
No, but you can get launched into the sky.
The exploration mode really acts as a microcosm for Away as a whole, an interesting idea squandered by a lack of any real value and polish. You get the experience of participating in one of those many nature documentaries you've seen on the telly dozens of times, but beyond that there's nothing here that isn't being done far better elsewhere. So if you're looking to learn about the countless wonders of the natural world, just stick on Sir David's new Netflix film instead.